Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the PETHS Alumni Network podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today we are joined by Shafi Warraich. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you very much for your time on this lovely Saturday. I'm sure you're busy, being like we talked offline, you're an entrepreneur and accountant at your own tax firm, Copilot Tax, which we'll touch on a little bit later. You had time at PwC focusing on tax. And one of the most interesting parts of your journey that we talked a little bit offline is after PET, which you graduated in 2010. You went on to study life science at U of T Scarborough for a year before transitioning into accounting, right? We'll touch on that a little bit later. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. But off the bat, like, are there any key standout moments for you during high school?
I wouldn't say something like out of the ordinary that, would be really, really exciting, but I just want to say at an overall level, basically high school really, laid the foundation for me. It gave me the discipline that I needed to excel, in my post-secondary education. Uh, just like the level of caliber of the teachers, even the students, that was really, really high. So it pushed me to like come to that level, right? When I was going through basically secondary level education, and that really helped me, right? Even when I was taking my life science, right, courses, I was ready. If had it not been for like the education that I've had at PET, it would have been more challenging. So I think I have to give credit to the teachers. They definitely put in a lot of work, even like during the classes, even at the end of the after hours as well. I definitely engaged a lot of their time after school as well to make sure I really understood the concept. So that was basically overall, that was really what helped me in my post-secondary education. And apart from that, just the people. I was fortunate to have known a lot of the people from PET that were from like the schools nearby, basically Castlemore Public School, Stonebridge. You might know some of them, right? And so it was a journey, and really enjoyed it. I do wish, if I look back, that I wish I participated more in more events, and that's my for anyone watching this show, especially who's basically entering high school now, get involved. Even if you're not in high school now, you're in your post-secondary education, get involved. It's so important to build a network. You know how in my culture, it usually parents emphasize education, right? There was no emphasis on getting experiences, going out, doing even getting like a job, a part-time job it's a great experience because it's exposing you to people, right? And people are of different type. So having that understanding, it builds empathy, it builds compassion, it helps you in your job. Even as an entrepreneur, being able to understand the mind of your customers, it's important. So having that experience early on, it helps to prepare you. It might actually even open you to like what you're passionate about. But if you're just focused on studying, which unfortunately I was,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that was basically but it's fine. Like everybody's going through a journey. We're learning, right?
Mhm.
So I would say get experiences, and but nonetheless, I had a great time. The one of my favorite classes was, you'll be surprised, was my grade 9 drama class.
Mhm.
That's where you're able to come out of your shell, do like skits, and anyone watching this right now who was part of my grade 9, I know you also had a great time. So it was really, really good
Mhm. Yeah.
overall.
Yeah, I second, everything you said about, the teachers being, great role models, having fun inside the classroom. And I posted a podcast a few weeks ago actually about, taking those drama classes because it helps you just talk to people,
Oh,
right?
no way.
Yeah, it helps you just speak in front of people, right? Which I'm sure is important in, a variety of, roles in your personal life, being
Absolutely.
being an entrepreneur, all those things. And you ended up going into a STEM program, right, at Life Sciences at U of T, right? Um, was that something that you always, wanted to do, or like when was the first moment where you decided that, that path was right for you?
Yeah, so that path was, you can say, chosen for me in a way through influences from my family because um, my brothers, both of them, and my elder sister, basically they're doctors now. They were going through that path. They were almost basically finishing up. At least my brothers were, and And so I thought maybe like, just follow, that path and at least I can learn from their experiences. It will be easier for me. So that's the path I started to follow. And I know my dad, he's like, when I was younger, he's like, I want you to become a neurosurgeon. I'm like, okay, dad, I'll try my best. But yeah, when I went through that process and like, university, when I was at UFT for that year, it really gave me some time to think, like, what do I really want? I guess one of the things that I was most turned off by was the length of time it would take to become a doctor. And I have friends who actually went through that path and, now they're doctors and, some are pharmacists. So it's a long path, but if that's something you're passionate about, it all comes back down to passion, right? So if you're passionate, who cares about the journey, right? So anyone watching this, I would say focus on what you're passionate about. Forget about the time it takes because and enjoy the process. Meet people. Really, really like invest in that in relationships because that's what matters. But my so now through that journey, like so that I think that was like a pivotal moment after my first semester. I'm like, oh gosh, this is not for me, right? In hindsight, I could have pulled it off if I just kept going, but it just there was a calling within myself, and I said, okay, you know what? What are options? What are other options? So I looked at different things, and accounting, CA had a nice ring to it. So I'm like, maybe that's something I can try. So, and I did. I went through that pathway, and I never looked back. And I thought of like CA, accounting as a way where I can build credibility, right? And even if let's say like like this is a as a professional, you're doing a public service. So even if after that, if I want to pursue other opportunities like entrepreneurship, I can. The world is your oyster, right? So um, it I didn't know at that time I was going to become an entrepreneur, right? And but somewhere in there, I had an itch for entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
My like even in my like family, we have we owned like basically so gas stations.
Mhm.
So there was somewhere in there, right? We had entrepreneurship in our blood. So I that's where like the post-secondary education exposed me to a network, right, as well. My friends who are my, still friends today, I really, stay in touch with. Even my high school friends, elementary school friends, we every now and then we meet up and we, talk about our, shared memories.
Mhm.
It was actually not too long ago. I think it was late last year. I met with a few of my friends and we were going through the yearbooks together. So it was a really nice experience. And even for post secondary, I went to Ontario Tech University for my accounting education, and once again, the support, the caliber of the students, it was really good. And Ontario Tech University, at that time, it was called University of Ontario Institute of Technology. It was a brand new university, so I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. Like, let's see, what maybe this is the time to sort of be an early alumni and show that that Ontario Tech students are what they're doing in their professional career. Like they're pushing the boundaries, right? Uh, Obviously UFT has a strong alumni network, right? And people have done amazing things. So I'm like, let's give Ontario Tech an opportunity. So that's where I did my accounting major, did my Bachelor of Commerce degree, and this is where I learned the very important lesson about relationships. Relationships are so important, and that was tough for me. I'm not going to deny that because I was first going to just continue with what I was doing, just focus on my education. But talking to my, fellow friends, and we have the accounting association as well. They just kept saying, network, network. I'm like, why? Why do I need to
Mhm.
network?
Right.
What is so important about networking? So um, it was tough because you're coming into a room full of people, and you have to like listen in on the conversations, continue it, and also perhaps start a new conversation as well. And those who have done networking, I know they know what I'm talking about. It wasn't easy as at first, and I think I'm probably like an introvert who became an extrovert over time. So it was definitely pushing the boundaries and building those connections.
Yeah, I think kind of like an undertone that we've mentioned throughout this podcast is the idea of there's more to learning than just being in the classroom, right? In high school, there's clubs to go to. There's, these like groups like, DECA comes to mind. A lot of people do DECA or
Yeah,
SHISM or things like that, right? But then in university, right, you think, okay, I just need to focus on good grades. But you miss out on all these other networking opportunities, right? And I guess, going through business school, like nobody's good at it off the bat, right? It probably takes like what, like hundreds of rejections before you get to a good one, right? Um,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I didn't get my full-time job until um, you can say maybe 7, 8 months even after my graduation. And even that, I just for those listening, everybody's journey is different. I started off with a contract role at PwC, and then I applied for, like so. For those that don't know, I went through after my education, my post-secondary education. I started off at PwC, and that's when I kind of rose the ranks to become a senior tax manager, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, it wasn't until 6, 7 months afterwards that I got my full-time job contract-based role, and then I applied to, and that was in London, Ontario. Really
Mhm.
good memories there too. But then I reapplied to the Toronto offices because this was this was an office that actually trained you for the CPA role, which I wanted. I was trying to pursue my CPA designation, right? So that's what led me to the PwC Vaughan office. At that time, it was in Concord, and now it's located in on Highway 7 at Jade Street. Really nice office. If you have a chance, maybe through those networking opportunities, maybe you'll get opportunity to tour it, and also the downtown. But yeah, it's really nice, and it's through that journey that you learn so much.
Yeah, you talked on the idea of like further education, right? Maybe like being a doctor, going through that education, it would feel like a slog every day, right? And that'd be like another 4 years of your life, another 4 or 5, 6 years of your life. Whereas, going through with like a CPA, for example, something that you're more passionate about, it doesn't really feel like a slog, right? It doesn't weigh you down as much. It's something that you enjoy doing. You're meeting similar-minded people, right?
Absolutely.
Um, mhm.
And
And
and and one thing I'd like to add there, Nathan, is that and when you pursue business, right? I think you have so many options. One of the things that kind of scared me about life science was like, what if I get trapped? Because what if I'm not able to get into medical school, right? What are my options then? So I was a little bit worried about that too, and I had um, I with business, I knew like there's so many ways to pivot. You could, go to accounting, you could start a business, you could go to management. Like there's so many different avenues, right? So it's all about what you're determined to do, what your passion is, and you just follow it. And even when you follow something and later on you realize this doesn't make sense, as was the case for myself, then switch it up. It's life. Life is a journey, and I always used to think like, oh, after university, I'm not reading any books. I'm not learning anymore. I just want to do the job, and that's it. Lo and behold, in my job as a tax professional at PwC, I have this big book. I still have it right now on my desk, and you have to read it. You have to understand the tax code, and I've spent hours reading.
yeah.
I had to read even obviously for university. You have to read, you have to learn, and and then that reshaped my understanding about life as well. It's life, like learning is lifelong. You can't
Mhm.
just say it's up to a certain point. You keep learning, and you want to learn. You want
Mhm.
to engage in these things, and also you have to understand why you're doing it. You're providing a public service. You're solving problems, real life problems that are impacting Canadians. Tax it right now it's April, so everybody's stressed about personal tax season right now. And even myself, we're in busy season, but I think it's important to to do these things, take time out for it, so people are learning, and they, if this could help someone make a decision about something, then why not, right? So
Mhm.
it's just about pushing the boundaries and figuring it out, and it's okay to take the time to do it.
Like you mentioned, tax is a huge headache, sorry, headache for like a ton of people, right? Everyone has that April like circled, especially with the uncertainty that exists in the economy today, it's huge, right? So I'm glad to hear that, you're helping people out because it takes a huge burden off their back for sure. And you mentioned the idea of like lifelong learning, right? With tax, you have to stay up to code on, for example, like the capital gains tax. Those are always changing, things like that.
Yeah, it is.
Um, yeah, I guess like you mentioned, being passionate about it, it doesn't feel like, you're like, oh, I have to read this book. It's more like, I'm excited to read this book to help other people, right? Is that kind of how you approach it?
Yeah, it's I don't even think about it. I'm just forced to do it because a client has a question. There's no way I'm getting that answer without reading the tax code.
Yeah.
It's it's to me it's not even like oh, I'm like passionate about reading the Income Tax Act. Although I've come across people who are, I would say I have to do it. And what I enjoy is meeting people. I enjoy the strategy. I enjoy solving problems, right? So as part of that, it's figuring out how to address that question that they have. So, as part of my role now, like, we're advising people about salary, dividend, compensation, how efficiently they can trigger capital gains, right? Create capital gains and minimize their taxes. So all of that, right, is part of my role now. For those that don't know, basically after my journey through PwC, I believe I was there from 2017, and then I left I basically rose to senior manager in taxation, and I left my job in October of 2023, so not too long ago, and to basically start my own accounting and tax firm with my business partner. It's called Copilot Tax, and basically that's what we're doing. We're advising, you know, basically every small and mid-sized business owners, and just giving them that guidance that they need to uh, basically run their business efficiently, right? Considering tax rules, because they're like you said, Nathan, they're always changing, and anyone who keeps on top of the tax news, in the last few years they've changed so many times. It and it's frustrating for some people, but that's where we come in to kind of handle that frustration, to guide them. We sometimes don't have all the answers because government is in the process of giving that clarity, right? But as soon as we do have that guidance, we're able to help the basically the clients, right? And one of the things why I started this, right? Copilot Tax with my business partner is because when we were working in our full-time jobs, right, we realized that we're doing an amazing job. Like, not trying to boast or anything, but
Yeah.
we were providing a really good service to billionaires, right?
Mhm.
And we felt that this was something that was lacking, like this tax services, tax optimization for small to mid-sized businesses. Um, and that's one of the things that led us to start Copilot Tax, to basically provide that advice to them. And, simple things like, how do you pay yourself? Take, how do you set up the right business structure? And if you have multiple shareholders, multiple partners, what is the structure? So these are things that we're, helping our clients with. And those who are watching this podcast, these are real life issues that you will deal with. If you're in high school and you're thinking of starting a business, yes, you can probably figure out your personal tax return, but when you want to open up a corporation, what's the process? And those watching this, I highly encourage you to learn a little bit about personal finance, personal taxation. I like to give credit where it's due. Even Wealth Simple Tax. Wealth Simple has a personal tax software for it's like simple returns. Start doing your personal tax return there. I think the first year is free, and then I'm not endorsing Wealth Simple Tax, by the way. I'm just saying they're free. They're free services out there, but learn yourself. and like don't just always rely on professionals. Like learn, do your own reading. We have clients who are really sophisticated. They come to us with some really good questions, and that's when we have to take out that book, the Income Tax Act, and give them that right guidance, right? So um, it's so important, right, to learn and to basically and like yourself, learn yourself. And but there is a time when you will need a professional, and
Yeah.
it's not worth it for you to do it yourself because it's just so complex. Sometimes we deal with even cross-border issues, like people, we have business owners who are thinking of moving to the US.
Mhm.
And then other times people are coming from the US to Canada. All right. So there's a lot of complexity. And sometimes people like have businesses and they want to set up a subsidiary in like, let's say the UK or Australia or the UAE. UAE is a really interesting one too. So I had clients who left Canada, they terminated their residency to move to the UAE. So we did some advisory services for them. Lots of interesting scenarios that we come across. But it all comes back to, you know, in my job right now, I have to, in my role as an accountant, as an entrepreneur, I'm constantly learning. And
Mhm.
there's just so many things. And if I didn't have that learning mindset, I would not be able to even start Copilot Tax
Mhm.
with my business partner.
Right on. Yeah, you answered a few of my, next questions I was going to ask, like the difference between, helping like billionaire companies working at PwC versus helping like smaller companies in your current endeavors, right? And that curiosity and the realization that they're kind of being underserved, right? And you can kind of address that, right? And a lot of the accountants out there, there's kind of like a stereotype, I guess, that they're very like, I don't know, like dry, by the books, that kind of thing.
Right.
But I like how you mentioned that there's more to it, obviously, right? There's relationship building, there's problem solving, and these are all things that I think it's really important that we kind of demystify that kind of like stigma,
Yeah,
especially on this page, right? Like,
absolutely.
kids growing up, they might think a profession is a certain way, but after speaking to someone who's been in it, I think you can kind of gain a better insight that way, right? And offline, we talked a little bit about kind of the differences between being an entrepreneur and an accountant, right? They kind of don't always go hand in hand.
Right.
How do you kind of reconcile those two things?
Yeah, so I think I have like two experiences like to share from. One is, you know, my role as a tax advisor at PwC, and then now my role as a entrepreneur and providing accounting and tax services. So um, when I was basically at my role as an accountant, like even the way I was doing it at PwC, it was not what people think accountants are. We're not just like doing one thing. We're not just doing personal tax preparation. We're not just preparing corporate tax returns, or even for other accountants who provide audit services. We're not just doing one thing. We are your business advisors, right? We are there when you have questions about, oh, I want to add like additional shareholders. I want to remove a shareholder, right? It's whether I should buy or lease like a vehicle, right? These are the type of questions that you might have, and there is a tax impact to it, right? And then there's also accounting. How do you account for it on the books and records? People think that we're just doing bookkeeping, we're just preparing financial statements. That is not all we're doing, right? And uh, my job, right, and is what I enjoy doing is teaching even clients, like educating them about taxes, and the goal is to make things simple. I don't try to make it boring. I try to make it fun, easy to understand. And if you go to our website, you'll find even calculators that we try to explain, like how to, like for example, incorporation, right? If you're incorporated, should you pay yourself a salary or a dividend? Or even if you are not incorporated, what is the implication, right?
Mhm.
So the goal is to make things simple and easy to understand. And I think there might be, you know, that small percentage of accountants who might only be doing personal taxes or corporate taxes, and that's okay. But uh, as a CA, CPA, right? CA, CPAs, we're taking it to the next level, right? There are people who are doing tax filing, they don't have a designation, right? But as a CA, CPA, we're there with you to provide you with strategic advice. And so you're like not just we're not just your accountant now for like the short term. We're with you as you're growing, you're expanding your family, your business. We're with you to advise you. It's a whole like cycle, right? It starts with a business, right? Or even if you're employed, that's fine because there's optimization that can be done for employees as well. But let's say you have a business, and you are then, you get married, right? And now you want to do income splitting, right? You have your spouse, then you have your kids.
Yeah.
And then as you go through that journey now, you want to maybe do a raise. You want to get equities like seed capital, right? You want to get some money from investors because your business is going through that stage. How do you do that effectively, efficiently from a tax perspective? And then as you grow, now your business is at that stage where you want to sell it. How do you sell it in an efficient way, right? And then, or if you want to buy another business that's related to your business, and then so grow that even further and then sell it, right? And how do you sell it in an efficient way? Everybody knows there's something called lifetime capital gains exemption. If you don't, search it. You need
Yeah.
to know these things.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
Basically, just for those who are listening who don't know, you can shelter up to $1.2 million of capital gains on the sale of a qualified business in Canada. So these are things that we should know about. We don't need to know the details of it, but we just need to know basic things like TFSA, RRSP, FHSA. So these are things we're talking about with our clients. Like, hey, are you using these attributes that are available? Sometimes there's tax attributes within a corporation as well. So as our clients are going through that journey, then maybe they want to now do estate planning, right? Some clients are they're getting older. They now want to pass their wealth, right, to their kids efficiently. How does that happen? Sometimes people have amassed a certain amount of wealth and they haven't talked to advisors or accountants, or I want to say tax advisors because I feel like accountants is like it turns people off
Yeah.
for some reason. So when you go through that you have amassed that wealth, and some people haven't spoken to tax advisors on what to do. Then lo and behold, when they pass away, they're hit with like a huge tax liability, which could have been much lower had they reached out, if they had reached out, sooner, right? So there's windows of opportunities for tax planning. And so the point is, we are advisors. Like to your point,
Yeah.
we're not just your, by the book accountants. We're there with every step of your journey to help you. And so it's interesting. I thought the same when I went into it,
Mhm.
but as I'm in the industry now, it's not that I'm playing different hats every day. First, when I was at PwC, it was more about getting the work done, right, in a timely manner, and the quality that in a quality manner as well. But now it's where I'm managing relationships even more,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes I'm doing sales calls. Sometimes I am preparing a tax return if like staff are a little bit too busy, right? Or I'm reviewing a file. I'm coaching my staff. And the other times myself and my business partner are having conversations about growth, right? How to generate leads. This is a big one for the listeners, right?
Mhm.
Learn sales skills. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter which industry you're in. You have to learn sales. I never learned that, right?
Mhm.
Uh, a little bit maybe at PwC, but I think like I would have done more of those things had I continued my journey as a senior manager. And I
Mhm.
was already starting to do it actually, like
Yeah.
doing business development. And because this is for those listening as well, PwC is a great platform. All the big four firms, they're amazing because you're exposed to different technology, right? And you're exposed to a network. Had I not gone through PwC, I don't think I would have had the right stepping stone to be able to start my business. So it was a perfect time to
Mhm.
start it. And it exposed me to like a network, amazing clients. Like we're dealing with like billion-dollar
Yeah.
clients. We're advising them on day to day, and I do this today as well for small to mid-sized business owners, right? Uh, so it really teaches you, even you're servicing those clients. Like when you're shadowing partners, right? Other partners, like at PwC, when I did that, I learned kind of how they did these things. But in a nutshell, like we never learned these things in elementary school,
Mhm.
in high school. I took a business course in high school, by the way, not since we're on
Yeah.
the subject.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was with Mr. Shields.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know if he's still around, but
Mhm.
God bless his soul. Like
Yeah.
yeah, he was funny. I remember watching the show. Uh, Trump had a show uh, back
Mm.
in the days.
Mhm.
Where he basically
Yeah.
used to bring in like people and then
Oh,
made
The
put
Apprentice.
The Apprentice.
Apprentice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, The
Mhm.
Apprentice. It was a really good show. We used to watch that in business class,
Yeah.
and that was a little bit exposure to the business world.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed it. I love watching that show. I even watched it afterwards. So
Yeah.
watch these shows. Watch Dragon's Den. Watch Shark Tank. It'll inspire you. And so go out there and sell. But if you're
Yeah.
in high school now, start something on the side. Like in addition to your high school education, start something and try selling. Try selling on Amazon, on Shopify. Do something simple.
Yeah.
You could be selling like newspaper for God's sake. Go
Yeah.
sell it, right?
Mhm.
Sell subscriptions, sell anything. Just go door to door and knock. I never did these things, but I can those who do it like the Mark Cubans, they did these
Yeah.
things, and that's how they don't develop that skill. So it's very important to have that. You can see I'm really passionate about that now.
Mhm. Yeah.
When I was in PwC, it wasn't like this. Like I was more on focus on delivering the service, right? It's
Mhm.
not until you come to that partner level or director, senior manager that you start doing more sales, right? But it's a stepping stone. It's a journey, and they do teach you. So anyone who's like watching this, it's good to start your career over there and kind of figure things out. And but yeah, like we're constantly like introducing, like changing, iterating things, right? We're constantly uh like choosing the right technology, AI, right? And
Yeah.
and to deliver our service. Things are changing so fast. And it's so much to keep up with. On one hand, there's a tax code, which is
Yeah.
always evolving. Then
Yeah.
there's technology that's ever changing. So those who are using even technology, the latest, they're able to improve their service offering.
Mhm. Yeah, I like how you talked about, sales. I think we're always trying to sell ourselves too, right? Whether you're, applying to a job, applying to a school, you're trying to convey some sort of value to the other person, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be a transaction, but like I said, applications, that kind of sales kind of helps. And you touched on the idea that people kind of think accounting is more backwards focused, when in reality, accounting is like the language of all business, and you're helping people project into the future, right? You're helping them decide between two alternatives. And something else you mentioned is the idea of leading and coaching other people, right? So as you progressed at PwC and as you run your own company now, what are some of the biggest lessons on leadership that you've learned?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a tough one. I think it's the lessons I've learned is you want to empower your, like, let's say, when you're leading an organization, you want to empower your staff, right, to with the best and greatest tools. So and give them that space where they feel like they also feel like owners, right? That's something we learned in PwC. Like, you act like an owner. So when our staff are servicing these clients, like if they don't have that feeling that this is their client, they're not going to do an amazing job in servicing them. We don't just give our staff um just prepare this tax return and there's no communication. We don't just tell them just do that and send it to us and we'll deal with the client. We have our staff communicating with the client, excuse me, communicating with the client like from start to finish, like getting the information, right? And basically delivering the whole service and then sending them the final deliverables. And at times, we will have calls with the client. Other times, we will record a video, right? And explaining them the financial statement. So it's about empowering them and letting them know it's okay to make mistakes, ask questions, having that sort of safe space to do that. We want to be like we're trying to be fun. I don't even consider myself as like a manager. I'm a team member. I'm a team member in my own firm, and everybody else is. is the same, right? We're trying to work towards a common goal. And then it's and then you have to align them to your vision, right? So I won't say I have everything figured out because we're only a year and a half plus old in terms of an accounting and tax firm. And but I'm using some of those things I learned at PwC and applying them in at Copilot Tax and also adding new things, right? Because now I have the ability to choose any technology I want. It does not take time for me to implement any technology. I just have to have a discussion with a business partner and we say, hey, you know what? Let's do this. Let's implement a timesheet software, for example. I'm just going to use that as an example. Um, and I don't like micromanaging. I don't like doing that. It's I want to I want a firm or we have a firm that people are self accountable, right? It's and sometimes there still might be challenges, right? And where you feel maybe one staff like isn't fully aligned with your vision, and that's normal in the business world, right? And that's why we have you know basically we have turnover as well, right? We basically we want to attract the biggest and the brightest talent, right? Who want to have basically a good learning, right? Who, if somebody wants to learn in tax, they want to learn accounting, we give them the resources to do so. And a lot of the big firms do this. There's really good small firms out there, right? They're doing some amazing work as well. They have great programs, and I think that's kind of the idea. Like you when you're leading an organization, you want to just sort of uh, like give them the best tools and feel that they're acting like an owner as well. And then you will see the results. And there's a lot of books written about leadership as well. I'm also now trying to constantly read, right? So
Yeah.
there's a sales side I'm learning. There's a people management I'm learning as well. How to make staff work towards your vision, right? Because that is so important in scaling a business. If you don't have that figured out, then you're going to struggle to scale.
Yeah, so you talked about the leadership, the sales, growing your business, all those kind of things, and you mentioned that you're looking to build as your company grows, since it's only a year and a half old at this point, right? So you're trying to gain a greater deal of coordination among your team to reach that certain goal, right? Along those lines, like moving forward, are there any other goals, whether it be professionally, personally? I know you used offline, we talked about traveling. Are there any like
Yeah,
kind of goals, aspirations that we can look forward to seeing from you?
absolutely, absolutely. First, I just want to clarify, like,
Yep.
I when I joined our firm, right, I joined about a little over a year and a half ago, but we actually been around longer than that. My business partner was definitely involved a bit sooner. So I would say we're probably like 2 years plus in terms of like our lifetime so far.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's in terms of like your question, we like in terms of your question, what goals I have. So I definitely enjoy traveling. I recently went to Morocco
Yeah.
last year, went to Turkey, and the UK. So I love traveling. It's a favorite. That's where I like to spend all my savings on.
Mhm.
So it's I want to do more traveling because I think it exposes you to different types of people, right? And you get that appreciation, you build empathy, the cultures, right? So that's important. I think we live in Canada, and that's the beauty of Canada, right? We accept different cultures. In GTA, we have so many different types of cuisines, right? And that's what I love about where we live. I don't think any other country has. I mean, probably New York, Manhattan, right? But I think we're even better.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like you can
Yeah.
tell me otherwise, but I
Yeah.
think we're a lot better in terms of that. So I enjoy doing that, and now I'm gonna do obviously continue doing that travel. It's one of my favorite things to do. If you have any suggestions on a good place to visit next, I know Japan. Japan is something
Mhm.
I'd like to visit.
Yeah.
I know some people, even like from Pet, right, who have gone to Japan, and
I went there
it
last year.
seems,
Yeah.
yeah, did you? Oh,
Mhm.
nice, nice. How
Yeah.
was that?
Awesome. Awesome. Can't
Yeah,
say enough about it. Yeah.
yeah. Japan, North Korea, sorry,
Mhm.
South Korea,
Yeah.
Korea, basically. I
Yeah.
definitely want to visit.
Mhm.
and because we've seen the Netflix show Squid Game,
Yeah.
and it's just it's amazing. And other than that, I think in terms of like professional and personal development,
Yeah.
I like to read more. I want to read more, right? Because I don't think I read like obviously the tax, the tax books, but I didn't do enough reading on like just general things like productivity, business, finance. Maybe I'll get some suggestions from you on finance, like what are the good books to read on finance?
Mm,
Because even though if it doesn't directly impact the service offerings I have, but maybe it's something that will allow me to improve my service offering, right? Like just in
mhm.
some way, shape, or form, or give me some knowledge that I can guide my clients more effectively on their personal taxes or their corporate taxes or just generally the planning that we're doing. So
Mm,
and just get in the habit of that. And also, like I just want to say like I attribute all my success, to God. Like
mhm.
there everybody has different views on that, but I think I would not be here today had it not been for my faith. Because
Mhm.
it keeps me grounded, right?
Mhm.
And then after that, obviously my parents, my wife, right, and my family members, who supported me, in my journey, right, and they continue to
Mhm.
support me as well.
Right.
So it's like I also I'm trying to focus on like work-life balance.
Mhm.
And this it's a lot better now as being an
Right.
entrepreneur versus like when I was, at PwC because
Mm,
that's your learning time. Don't be afraid. People are afraid to, oh, like when you go to the firms, you'll have to grind it out. Like, yeah,
mm,
so what? You're
yeah,
young, grind it out. Like it's
yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
That's your time. But you will eventually come out of that and you can get that work-life balance. I have so many friends like who are like who I met through PwC. They've gone into like different directions, right? Some have gone to
Mhm.
industry, some have gone into like the banks, right? And some
Mm,
are still in like maybe public accounting, right? And
mm,
so it's fine, right? So it's yeah, like just these things are important, like, and also
mhm.
just trying to obviously meet with more people. Like I'm so
Yeah.
glad to be on this podcast. When you
Mm,
reached out, like
yeah.
I was like absolutely yes.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing thing to meet new people. So I want
Mhm.
to just continue building new relationships.
Right.
That's and just and just like focus on a quality of life, right?
Mhm.
Fitness, all these things are important because without one thing I'd like to encourage the listeners is
Mm,
or it's now we're shifting a bit in terms of like our attitude towards life. Everybody's trying to get that quality, and that's amazing. So when you're going through, let's say even the grind, right? Don't
mhm.
compromise your health, right? It's okay. Like yes, you will do extra, like you will do late, evenings, hours, right? Overtime here and there, but just try to spend a little bit of time during the week in focusing on yourself as well, your fitness. You will have to take a hit somewhere, like sacrifice something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when we're going through that process of like working, especially those jobs like even investment banking, I know they're long
Mm,
hours, so uh, just try to take that time out, where possible. It is tough, I'm not going to deny it, but I'm
mhm.
still working on that myself, like that work-life balance, trying to balance your basically your business, like for me, my business, my family, um, and also, just trying to create time for my faith as well. So these
Right.
things are important and they go hand in hand, right?
Mhm.
You need to figure out how to do that. I don't think anyone has it perfectly figured out, right? But you
Mhm.
just have to keep striving.
Right. I think you brought up a number of, really good points about, the things that really matter, right? Family, faith, finding your passions, always reading, even though you said that, you didn't want to read a book ever again, but
Yeah.
that idea of consistently learning and across all different areas, especially as an entrepreneur, because like you said, you wear so many different hats, right? Meeting different people, exploring different cultures. These are all things that I think anyone can really take away, no matter, their background or what they're trying to do in the future, right? So those are all great insights. And I wanted to ask you one final question.
Yes.
If you could nominate another pet grad to be on the podcast, who would it be?
Can I nominate two?
For sure.
Okay, I like to nominate Adam Jafrani,
Mhm.
and I like to nominate Ishan Patel.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, offline, you said you had, some friends with some cool stories, along with your own story, which, we've talked a lot about the idea of finding your passion, right? At the end, you kind of said grinding it out, right? But at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned, you couldn't grind it out as a doctor, right? Because that's just not something that interests you, right? It's more rewarding
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
grind something out it's rewarding, taking those risks, being an entrepreneur, leading other people, like you said, empowering other people, right? Making them
Absolutely.
accountable. Um, what else did I miss? Yeah, accountability, leadership, sales idea. We talked about
Sales.
a lot. Yeah,
And
the idea of
family
yeah,
as well. Don't forget your family in the process, right? That's create make time for them, right, as well, and your friends. Those things are important. Work-life balance. Even in the grinding part, I just would like to add there. What made that grind easier, right? Even if it was something I was passionate about,
mhm,
was the people I met at PwC. When I was like with those people, right? They were also in the same boat,
yeah,
and we had really good chats in the evening, right?
mhm,
So, while we're working, we're sharing dinner at the
mhm,
office,
mhm,
and it was just like those conversations were some of the best, like after hours.
yeah,
I think we
yeah,
spent a lot of time chit chatting, and that led us to stay even more late. But it
yeah,
was worth it. It was worth it. So
mhm,
you'll notice that when you go through your journey, and
yeah,
when you find when you're in your career, the people are the ones that make it really fun and exciting. I didn't mention one experience, but I
yeah,
also had a little bit of experience at the CRA as an
mhm,
intern while I was going through my undergrad.
mhm,
So even during that journey, like I met some
yeah,
really amazing people that some of which I'm in contact with today,
mhm.
and everybody is just like amazing that I met throughout that journey.
Yeah, I think it's important for people entering the job force not to just look at, how much money you make or like what company it is, how prestigious it is, but like the people you're working with, right?
Absolutely,
Super important. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to maybe like school projects where you don't remember like how well you did or anything, but you remember, staying up late, grinding out like a report the morning before it was due or something like that. You remember those little moments, right?
exactly.
So yeah, thank you so much for
My
your time.
pleasure.
Yeah,
My
thank you.
pleasure.
It was awesome to hear about, what accountants actually do because I feel like, there's a misconception, right? They help you plan forward. They're not just looking backwards at what's happened in the past, quarter or year. They help you make important decisions. Like you said, it's important for everyone to educate themselves on, not like, so deep, but to have a general understanding of the mechanisms that exist for you. And like you said,
Absolutely.
when you can seek professional help for things because it'll save you a lot of headache, it'll save you a lot of stress, a
Yeah.
lot of money.
If anyone's going through that right now, if they have a tough scenario and they like to discuss, you can get my details from Nathan, and happy to chat.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and we'll see
Thank you.
everyone next week. Peace
Thank you
out.
so much.